Welcome to Alaskan Freedom. Now we got our beautiful barn door done. Now we're shifting our focus back to our bathroom.
In 2023, we moved to Alaska to fulfill our dream of a better quality of life. Follow along as we transform our few acres of Alaskan off-grid virgin land into our dream homestead.
We are Jay and Elaine, and this is Alaskan Freedom.
We were going to do a whole video on just finishing the bathroom, and we still are going to do that. That'll be coming up in a few weeks, showing the compost toilet, the walls finished, the trim, how we did everything in there. But we did decide to do a separate video, which is today's video, just on the light and the fan switches. We're not code enforced where we live, but we're trying to do everything to code. So if anybody out there is a licensed electrician or sees any mistakes we made or anything we did that isn't to code, please let us know in the comments.
Electricity can kill someone and could burn the house down. We're not licensed electricians, and this is not a how-to videos.
Yeah, this video is more just to show you what we're doing and kind of explain some of the stuff and the technical reasons why. We will give some pointers of what we're doing and why we're doing it. But if this is a project you're not comfortable doing yourself, make sure that you are seeking a licensed electrician to do this, because electrical work can be very dangerous. So today we're installing this box, and this is going to be the light switch and the fan switch for our toilet room. The majority of our electrical throughout this cabin is going to be in metal boxes and a metal exposed conduit, so it won't be recessed into the wall like a standard house. It's going to be sitting on the outside of the wall, and there will be metal conduit that runs up and along the ceilings and the walls that carries all the wiring. The one place we do have the wiring inside the wall is this toilet room, so this is kind of a unique situation. So we're installing this right now just to get the lights and the fan going in this room, and then the source power to this box temporarily is going to come from one of our batteries. So we'll show you how we're doing that.
So we're gonna mark it to make sure we do the right one.
So one of the first things that you might encounter if you're installing a metal box like this, that if you are not used to doing these, that you might overlook, that is important and is to code, is to put clamps inside these knockout holes. You can't just feed the wire through these. And the reason for that is if you just feed the wire through these holes, over time, this metal is a little sharp and it could actually start to wear at these wires. And also, if there's any tension on the wire, then that tension is being transferred to where the wires are connected rather than where it should be, which is on a clamp that we're going to put on the back of this box to feed the wires through. So this is what the clamp looks like. It has a nut that comes off of the one side. Then this is going to go back here, and that will screw on like that. And get that tight. And then our wires will come through here, and we'll be able to tighten these screws down so that it's holding those wires tight and there's no force anywhere on the wire other than right at this clamp. That's holding the tension on the wire. Right there. And then make sure those wires are... All the tension is on that.
So code requires that this wire should come out 6 inches out. We're gonna measure it and mark it. We're gonna do 7 just to be safe.
Another Another thing we're going to address right away, that if some of you are electricians or have experience with this, you might be yelling through your monitor. We're using two different gauges of wire, which normally is not considered acceptable. And I'm going to explain to you why it is in this case. So this is a 12 gauge wire and this is a 14 gauge wire. The smaller number is a thicker gauge. 12 gauge wire is usually what you're going to see put throughout a household for most of your circuits, most of your outlets and everything. 14 gauge wire is for 15 amp, 20 amp is usually what you're using on your yellow. You should not be changing from 14 to 12. But what we're doing here is the wire that's going to feed the power on this coming in is going to be 12 gauge. Everything on this line is going to be 12 gauge. Coming in the box, we're going to have a 12 gauge wire, and then this right here runs to the light, and this one runs to the fan. The reason we used a 14 gauge wire on the fan is because, first of all, copper and wire is very expensive, and we wanted to save a little money where we could. So we're running a 14 gauge wire to the exhaust fan that's inside of the toilet room here, because those draw very little power and it's okay to use that. So in this instance, if you're bringing from a 12 down to a 14 on something that's low amp, that would be okay. You would never want to do this where you're connecting an outlet or anything that could someday have something plugged into it. You never know how much amperage or what that is pulling, and you could trip a breaker. So if you're unsure of this, it's just best to always use the same gauge wire, always be using the 12 gauge wire. And if you have something that, like even our light probably could have been the 14, but I didn't know what kind of light was going in here at the time. That is why we have two different wires here. I don't know if there's anywhere where this is not allowed by code to go from 12 down to 14, but I know in places I've built this is acceptable as long as the 14 is coming off of a larger gauge wire and only feeding a low voltage, only feeding a low amperage. As Elaine mentioned, code does require that these come out 6 inches. It's actually 6 inches from where you cut the sheathing. So we're going to cut the sheathing about a ½ inch from where it comes in and down. Since she cut off 7 inches of this, or left us 7 inches, we'll be at about 6.5. The next thing we're doing is kind of a big no-no. We are going to feed this 12 gauge wire into the box to supply power to this box. This is just temporary until we get the actual solar system hooked up. For now, this is going to run to the other end, which will have a plug on it and be plugged into one of our batteries. And the hardware store was out of the clamps that go in the back that we were talking about that you're supposed to have on these in the knockouts. So since I couldn't get another clamp, we're just going to push one of these knockouts up and feed this wire through and use it like that for now. And as soon as they get another one of those clamps in, we will be installing that over this wire. We live in an area where it's a little harder to get supplies sometimes, so we just have to wait until we can get another one of those clamps.
Because we're using a metal box, now we have to ground the box. Most boxes doesn't come with a ground screw, but they do have a hole for them. Generally, a ground screw is a green screw. Some places do require by code to have a green screw, but most don't. This box doesn't come with a screw, and our local store doesn't have any green screw. So we just used a regular screw. Now we're gonna ground the box. This is a scrap of 12 gauge wire to match the heaviest gauge wire we're using. First, we're gonna make a J hook. Now we have a J hook. And then we're gonna attach this to the ground screw, making sure that when you put the hook on, that the screw turns clockwise with the hook.
Next, we're putting our ground wires together. I actually put them together already and then forgot that I was doing 2 switches in this box, so I had to take them back apart. So I have an extra pigtail. So the way we're doing these grounds, there is 4 wires in here. One of them is grounding out the box, one's coming in the feed wire, and the other 2 are going out to the lines. And we want to add 2 pigtails. The pigtails are going to go to the 2 light switches, and then just one more connector that will go so that we can get all these together, because it's too many wires to put into one wire nut. So what we're going to do is take three of the wires that are in here plus the straight one and put all those together. Then next we'll take our last two ground wires that are in the box plus our two pigtails and put those four together. Next we're going to do our common wires, the white wires. Because these are going on a single pole switch, the common wires, or the neutral wires are sometimes called, do not go to the switches, so they just need to be connected together. And now for the last wire, which is the live wire, the load wire, the hot black wire. There's only one coming in that's going to be hot. The other two are going out to the fixtures. And since we have two switches to feed, we made up two pigtails so we can tie these two in together, and then these will each go to the switches, and then these two will come out of the other side of the switch. The switch basically is just an interrupter to stop the flow going from through these wires to these wires to turn it on and off. So now we're going to connect these three together and then connect everything up to the switches. And again, all we're using is a single pole switch. So on each switch, all we need to do is hook up the live and the feed out to the fixture on one end, the two black wires, and then on the other end, the ground. I put in this box wrong.
You did?
Yes. It's sideways.
Sideways.
Yep.
What do you mean?
Pretty easy to change, but I just can't believe I did that. Anybody that has electrical experience might have caught a mistake I did earlier and been wondering how long it was going to take me to figure it out, and we just figured it out. The box is not installed correctly. It is 90 degrees off. So what we're talking about here is these holes right here are set for the switches. These are that these would go in. If we left it like this, the switches would have to be sideways. It's not a big deal. All we're going to have to do is remove the two screws in the back of the box and rotate this box 90 degrees to get everything set the way we want. So now I got to do that real quick. Now that we got these switches all wired up, let's get the light put in.
We're going to install this light fixture. Now we're going to attach this bracket that it came with to this electrical box. It's either this bracket or the electrical box should come with the screws. Cheating?
Yep.
Okay.
Alright. So you're going to want to first cut this off about that length. Careful with your fingers. You're just taking off a little bit of the insulation, like that length.
Oh,
Yeah.
like this?
Yep.
Oh, okay. And the tubes.
Yep. So just the black and red one.
Tubes.
Or black and white.
What we're gonna do is ground it. What we're gonna do first is to make a J hook and then connect it to the green screw. How tight?
Just.
And by the way, we picked green from all of the comments that we got. We picked green because we saw one of the comments said, since we're building an off-grid cabin, that means we're going green. So here we are, and we love it.
And you're using those wire nuts it came with.
To white. What is this for?
Where are they? Huh? That's the ground. Oh, that should have went with that.
Oh.
Yep. Nope. Yep, there you go.
Okay. The next thing we gotta do is push all of these wirings inside the bracket. How did that happen? Wow.
No, what you did was right. That's the right way. Yep.
Now we just have to connect the light fixture to the bracket.
And that's these black screws behind you over here.
So we got this decorative light bulb and got a little yellow hue on the glass. And we got 60 watts, is that correct?
Yes.
This bulb got 60 watts
60
of
watts
lumens.
soft light.
There's soft light, 60 watts soft light. Cool, that is so pretty. I hope you guys like the new light that we put in our bathroom. And thanks for watching.
See you next week.
Now we got our beautiful barn door down. Now we got our beautiful barn door down. Now we shift to our...
Nope. You said down.
Oh. Now we got our beautiful barn door. Now we got our beautiful barn door done.